But oddly enough, there's no sidewalk around the high school. There's no sidewalk on the Milan Street side, except for down by the football field. And on the baseball field side, there's some, but there's none along 16. Nor is there any at the hospital on the 16th Street, on the 16th side. So we would definitely suggest that those be priorities, that eventually those get filled in. 16 South, you know, we actually, this is designated on our comprehensive plan as there being a hard surface trail from downtown to the Lady Bird Park. That's all TxDOT right away. You know, we've heard from the people who, you know, were developing the SPCA and stuff. You know, they fought trying to build, having to build a sidewalk. In that particular case, TxDOT won't let us build a sidewalk in the ditch where there's no curves. So we would actually have to move the sidewalk, or they would have to move the sidewalk back onto private property, which we could do because it's not developed. But that's where the escrow thing came in, or one of the areas where the escrow thing came in. And a good example of where it's real problematic is there at Friendship Lane, where the veterinary office is there. If you visualize that, they have not a very big tract there, and they've got a concrete bar ditch, and they've got their circulation there runs basically right up against the property line, where they drive animals in, unload them, and then exit. There's no room. If we were to say, hey, move your sidewalk back away from the bar ditch, there's no place to put it, because they'd have to tear a building out, and they'd have to completely redo their property. So I still think it's important for us to consider, you know, a linkage from town out to the park. But maybe it's on the west side of the road and not both sides. Okay? Do we really need to have one on both sides? Something we should be thinking about. We have Friendship Lane. We've got a sidewalk from Adams all the way to East Main on the north side. Nothing on the south side. And then South Washington, 37 South. You know, we've got you know, basically bits and pieces of sidewalks there where people have developed in a couple spots. But to me, that's a commercial corridor. Probably should include, you know, sidewalks at least down to Friendship Lane or something like that. Highway streets, it's a trick. You know, we've started to put sidewalks on Highway Street. It's, you know, it's a major street, but it too has a whole bunch of challenges along it. I mean, you've got limited right of way, you've got places where there's no curb, you've got utility poles, you've got driveways, you've got fire hydrants, you've got people whose lots front to it, you've got people whose lots side to it, you've got commercial zoning, you've got residential. It's really all over that. So I know that's a lot to think about, but
so what kind of time will we expect? Are they one answer or one recommendation?
they haven't given us a time frame. Obviously, we had hoped to be able to just draw up a plan and put it together and just do something, I think. But you know, when we kind of dug into this, we realized it was going to be a little more problematic than that. So we haven't been given a time. I mentioned to the council a couple of meetings ago that this was the route we were going to take, and they were fine with it. So my hope is that we can continue this and do it at the next meeting, and maybe having presented this kind of visual to you now you can think about it. If you have time, you know, either get back with me or we can have another meeting and talk about it more definitively. But I suspect that they want, you know, we don't want it to linger until, you know, the end of summer either.
So the
I think we need to come up with a plan that shows where we think the route should be, okay? That's the first, that's the start.
Just
Now,
route.
and I say that in a two-dimensional kind of line, okay? Let's look at it where we think there ought to be sidewalks, both from a regional standpoint and from a more centered, downtown area standpoint. Then from that, we'll settle on, we'll have to settle on that as a group to determine that's what we think we want to recommend to the council. And from that, my suggestion would be to prioritize, um, where we think the council might consider doing some infill kind of stuff. I don't expect the council to decide to do a project from Maine to Cross Mountain Park on Mile. I would think they're gonna be more focused on, you know, filling in some stuff on Austin Street around the, you know, around those kinds of areas. Ultimately, though, the council's gonna have to decide, and I don't think we can make that decision for them. Okay, if we say we think there ought to be a sidewalk on 1 mile, I think they're gonna have to direct us to say, okay, that can't just be a $20 a linear foot sidewalk. You know, it's gonna be a major project to do that. And, is that something we're going to expect somebody who develops property on that roadway to do? Okay? Um, and believe me, this is a real deviation from the traditional way of looking at requiring sidewalks. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying that typically most communities deal with sidewalks in their subdivision ordinance. They don't look at it like this. So,
So really, we just say this is where we want.
this is where, in our opinion, based on what,
Engineer it and come up with it.
yeah, I mean, we're thinking about, okay, the comprehensive plan has talked about mobility, and it's talked about connecting commercial areas with residential areas, and it's talked about connecting, you know, our park areas with downtown, and our park areas with neighborhoods, and those kinds of things. So that is, I think, should be our guide to how we get to these elements. Now, if the council decides to say, hey, we don't want to require developers to do it, we want to take on that effort ourselves, you know. And that's the other option. We just don't do any sidewalks. We let people walk in the street like we do now.
Well, I think you've done a lot of work. I appreciate this big job.
Well,
Appreciate that.
I would encourage you to try to visualize and drive down some of these streets, what it would take to do some of these things. So it may influence your perception.
So does everybody understand what you're thinking about next, at the next meeting?
Same
Y'all,
thing.
does everybody
Y'all
want
want
that?
same
Does
thing?
everybody need?
I've only got 3 days left.
I blow your chances now, huh?
Anybody need any additional information from Brian?
Well, we'd like that
Before the
now.
next week, everybody, so should everyone just come by and pick it up if they want?
We'll deliver them to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
If there's a sidewalk in front of your business.
okay.
What we'll give you is we'll give you a map that's like that, and we'll give you a zoning map. You know, the zoning map can influence maybe, you know, and, maybe we can give you an aerial
I
map.
was gonna say, some of that online, you can look online.
Yeah,
and
we're
see.
kind of in,
Oh,
we're working on some stuff on our website, so, I think it would be helpful to have an aerial photograph too. Now, it's gonna be a little small at that scale. I'll look at it and see, but you may have a question about, hey, what's there? You know, and rather than go drive out there, you can look and see.
Brian, isn't 95% of the current foot traffic on this page right here? So it's, most pedestrian traffic is concentrated here.
95% of our tourism traffic,
Right.
foot traffic is definitely within that area. And that's the other thing we haven't even talked about is that's really a critical component of this, is we want those people who are our visitors to be able to get around town without, you know, they don't know that our streets are wide, just walking the streets. And, you know, we want them to be, or want those mobility issues to be as convenient as possible and as safe as possible areas in town that are pretty rough. In that zone that you've got here.
And then secondarily, residents.
Just curious how much,
Secondarily, in addition to, excuse me.
how much criticism is there from tourists or from people who walk our city streets?
I'm sorry.
As to not, how much criticism is there, or how vocal are they about sidewalks, having sidewalks or not having sidewalks? Anything you should know about?
The only time we hear from them is when they fall. Or stumble, or, you know, they drink beer and
In this community,
but seriously, there are some spots, Steve knows, around town where you gotta watch yourself. I mean, it doesn't take much, so, we don't, I would say little. We don't have people call us and say, where are your sidewalks in town? Or, well, I was walking in the neighborhood or whatever, and there wasn't any sidewalks.
I think a component of that is because I drive these streets all the time. I think, and there's people walking in them all the time, especially in the historical district of the downtown area. And we can be thankful that this community welcomes our visitors and don't yell and scream at them or attempt to run them over, because if we did that, they would be complaining. So we're very fortunate people to understand, these folks are an asset to our community, we welcome you. And in that downtown area, when I drive, I mean, there, you know, weekends, it's a cluster with people. I mean, it's not only, they're coming out, you know, behind their cars, between cars, because there's no sidewalk accessibility for them to get to. So they complain, you know, we don't have a sidewalk. No, we start hitting them, you know.
So what are you suggesting here?
We build some sidewalks.
There's actually two places that I feel uncomfortable walking or running on our streets, on Main Street. One's on Main Street and one's on Friendship Lane. And I run all local Travis, San Antonio, Austin, from cemetery to cemetery. There's only two places that I feel uncomfortable.
And Main Street because of the number of people, or
Yeah,
because
Main
of the
Street because of the unevenness of the sidewalk by the old Keitel Hospital where the
Yeah.
5 seminary is,
Yeah.
and on Friendship Lane, by the city limits. Because it's a curve,
Yeah.
and if you try to run in the street, you can't, and then you have to hop on to the grass area, and it's very.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that. I mean, I know there was our Friendship Lane sidewalk, for example, are right next to the back of the curb. And that's not an ideal situation, particularly when you have speeds of traffic that are that high. I mean, you prefer to get the, you know, you get them off, but a little bit of a buffer there anyway, but, you know, that was a design issue and a cost issue, a little less expensive to do it that way, but, I can understand. I mean, if you're literally running, you know, 2 feet from a 40-mile-an-hour vehicle.
But overall, I don't think that's too bad if there's only really 2 places. I think it's pretty
Well, they
good.
weren't designed as jogging trails.
No, they weren't.
Well, is it possible, just to throw this out, you know, you see that a lot where they have bike lanes or jogging lanes, painted, designated for, traffic. I know they can just jump that bike stripe in a heartbeat. But most
Bike
people,
lane?
yeah,
Purple has them.
you know, have a tendency to
Mhm.
stay away from that area. So, I mean, I don't know, in lieu of sidewalks in some of those areas.
Trouble with that, Charlie, is what do you do with parked cars?
Yeah, parking is.
Well, I mean, on Friendship Lane, I mean, if it doesn't have a sidewalk,
Yeah.
there
We
is
don't
no
have enough
parking.
width in Friendship, unfortunately. If you had extra pavement width, that would work, but you don't there. Yeah, he's right. We'd love to have it on.
Well, that's the other solution, no parking. Inexpensive.
So,
You want to hear complaints?
I know.
Learn more about that than the sidewalks.
Yeah, that was P and Z, not City.
That's all.
anybody have anything else?
I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Jason, second by Greg. All in favor, aye? All opposed?
Excited right now.
Thank you for
Okay, that's it. See you guys.
all.
So I will upload this.